you are if you're on the East Coast. But good afternoon, guys. Today, we're going to be talking about why a majority of your conversations in your relationship, why they turn into fights. Right? You ever wondered that? You ever sit back and think about, dang, why is every time I bring up a situation or a concern, there's always a fight. There's always some pushback. There's always, yeah, but you, and all these things. Like, you ever stop and wonder, like, actually think about it? I know a lot of times we go back and we think about, man, they just don't know how to communicate, or if they would just do this, if they would just do that, and so on and so forth. We always say that, as if the conversation always goes left because the other person. But you ever stop to consider that maybe there's something that you're doing consistently and you think you're doing communication right, but you're actually causing the communication to go left. You're causing the problem. So I'm Dr. Keith Fairclough. I'm a mental health therapist. I work with couples. I work with relationships. And this is the issue that I see with couples all the time. You ask them, hey, you guys are good at communication? And someone always says, yeah, I'm great at communication. I say, awesome. Share something, that a concern that you have, and share it with your significant other. And they always do. Always. Well, I say always, but it's rare that it doesn't happen. Almost always happens like this. Well, I'm going to share how I feel. So, see, what you don't understand is that you do this, and then you do that, and then you talk to this person, and then you don't show up, and you don't come here, and then you don't do, and you don't, and then you don't, and you always, and you never. See, I just shared exactly what I thought it felt. I'm like, yeah, no, you didn't. No, that was actually pretty bad. No, that's not how any of this works. I'm talking about you statements. You statements. When you start out with just that, you do this, you do that. You never take out the trash. You never give me a kiss. You never make me this. You never do that. It's all these you statements. And so you don't understand what is actually happening when you use those you statements. So we're going to go over some of the things. I want to say about 7 things that happens when you use you statements, and how these things are destroying your relationship, and how it's pushing you further away. And we're also going to talk about at the end what you can do instead of using you statements to fix this issue, fix this problem. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it, right? So the first thing a you statement does, or I guess maybe I should just define what a you statement is. It's kind of what I just said. It's essentially when you are telling someone about themselves. You're not talking about yourself. You think that you're sharing your thoughts. You think you're sharing your feelings. That's what you think you're doing, but you're actually not sharing anything about yourself outside of your opinion about somebody else. But that's not getting at the heart of the message, right? Because with communication, the whole purpose is for you to share what you're thinking and what you're feeling in a way that the other person can receive it, and so that you can be understood. That's the purpose of it. But if you're starting off a conversation, what you think is good conversation and good communication with you statements, I can guarantee that will never, ever come across. Never come across. Right? So because a you statement, one of the first things it does, it's criticism. Whether you believe it or not, whether you want to accept this or not, a you statement comes off as a criticism. If you tell somebody, right, if you're a woman and you tell your man, you never take me on dates, that's a direct attack on him. It's a direct attack on him. Because what it's saying is you don't care about the relationship. What it's saying is you don't care about me. What it says is you're not putting in effort for us. Now, of course, if he never takes you on a date, but no one ever always does something, right? It's never, there's no such thing as always, there's no such thing as never, right? But what happens, right? The guy was going to say, what are you talking about? I took you on a date last week. He becomes defensive. Right? So the two things happen simultaneously. When you start using those you statements, when you start coming off with it as criticism and accusations, then the other person is going to become defensive. Now, when a person becomes defensive, guess what they're no longer doing? They're no longer listening to you. They're no longer trying to understand you. They no longer want to know where you're coming from, because what you did, and this is another thing that happens, is you shift the conversation. So that's something else that happens. So one thing is criticism. You see, it's crazy how all these things, I was writing them down. I didn't realize how integrated they were all at the same time. So the first thing is a you statement comes up as criticism. You're attacking the person's character. You're attacking them as a person, right? If you attack someone, the second thing happens. You now make them defensive. You make them now try to defend themselves. And then you can say, well, why are they getting so defensive? Maybe they're insecure. Maybe they have daddy issues. Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe they have all that. But I can guarantee, forget the maybe, I can guarantee by you making an accusation or criticism on them, I can guarantee it's that. I guarantee that's what you just did. And when you do that to someone, it makes them defensive. So are there other things that could also trigger it? Of course. But I guarantee that triggers it automatically. Because then you're doing the third thing. You're shifting the focus from you. You think you're sharing your thoughts. You think you're sharing your feelings. You think you're doing those things. I can guarantee you're not doing those things. As a matter of fact, the crazy part is what you end up doing is you actually end up making the conversation about the other person. Yes, you make it about the other person. That's what happens. How? Because you use a you statement. Think about it. If I'm using a you statement, if I'm talking to you and I say, you need to improve and do better, who am I talking about? I'm not talking about me. How can I be talking about me if I'm talking about you? If I say, you don't take me out, you don't give me intimacy, you don't show up for me, you don't celebrate my birthday, I'm not talking about me. Think about, just slow down and think about when you use these statements and what happens when you do. When you use these statements, just think about it. Oh, shoot, that's a good point. Yeah, if I do say you, I'm actually talking about you. So when you respond about you, it makes sense. If I say that you are lazy and you say, no, I'm not, and you start defending yourself, I just made it about you. And so what ends up happening is if you make the conversation about them, guess who's not about? You, right? The person who's bringing it up. So the fourth thing that happens is you don't get your needs met. Why? Because you're not able to share them. You're not sharing them the right way. You think you're sharing them the right way when you're telling them what they need to do and what they need to not do, where they need to show up and how they need to do. You think you're sharing what you're thinking, you're feeling, but you're not. You think you're sharing, you're being very clear. And a lot of people say, yeah, I'm very clear and direct with my communication. But you didn't talk about yourself at all. You made it all about the other person. Now, I want you to take a step back, and I want you to think about how confusing this is. You made the conversation about them while trying to express what you're thinking and feeling without saying it at all. And now you want them to take information about them and decipher what you have going on inside of you. Sounds kind of crazy, right? I'm going to run that back to you one more time. You made the conversation about them in an attempt to express what you were thinking, what you were feeling. You only give them information about what they're doing or not doing. And now you want them to take that information and then understand what you were thinking and feeling when you didn't share what you were thinking and feeling. You only shared what you thought, your opinion about them. So your needs aren't met. How can they be? They don't know them. You never shared them. You could have a whole hour-long conversation and never share your needs. Isn't that crazy? But that's what you statements do. That's what they do. Let me see. I got a little list here. I just want to make sure I don't forget anything. Okay. Another thing they do, right, is you statements actually make the other person feel like they aren't enough. They make them feel like their efforts aren't enough. It makes them feel like they're not appreciated. It makes them feel like they're not doing enough. And inherently, even if you have a person who doesn't, let's say they don't become defensive, they don't push back, or they try to be sweet and they try to be loving and all those things like that, But how often can you tell somebody that they're messing up, they're not doing the right thing, and how many times I've got to tell you, and this is the next time it happened, and this, and I told you this, and it's always a you statement. How many times can you beat someone over the head before they finally realize that I guess I'll just never be enough? And if you need some evidence for that, think about to your childhood when people would do that to you. No matter what you did, it was never enough. No matter how you showed up, it was always, well, you could have done better. And your grades could have been this. And you should have done that. And if you really were like, and look at Johnson's kid. Johnson's kid does it. Why can't you do it? You get all those comparisons and all those things going on and taking place. How does that make you feel? Of course, it doesn't make you feel good. But that's what we do to our partners all the time when we hit them with the you statements. Even if they're trying to be nice and they're trying to be loving, and they're trying to be kind and they're trying to be sweet, and they're not pushing back and they're saying, yeah, I'll try to do better. I'll try to do. Eventually it's going to be like, dang, bro, I'm never enough. I cannot please them. I can't win because I'm trying to do all these things and it's not working. So then what happens the next when you keep treating someone like that? You end up driving people away. It's the last thing that happens with you statements. You end up driving people away. The person you love, the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, the person you want to have children with, the person you want to build a life with and have a future with, you drive them away. Because eventually what happens? They start disconnecting. They stop opening up. They stop listening. Some people argue back. Sometimes people just shut down altogether. And every single argument, every single conversation, now they don't want to come home. Now they're taking a long time to come home. Now they want to go to bed early. Now they want to stay up late. Now they're trying to avoid you. Now they don't want to get into a conversation. Now you say, hey, I want to talk about something. You get the deep sigh or the rolling of the eyes or the here we go, or you're driving them away. Why would someone want to be in if I have to go into a conversation where I'm getting lambasted, I'm getting just brutalized, I'm getting criticized, and when it's not enough, why would I want to stay in a conversation like that? Why would I want to stay in a situation like that? I wouldn't want to. No one would want to. You wouldn't want to. But this is what happens when we're constantly using you statements. We're tearing our loved one apart. The love of our life. You're tearing your husband apart. You're tearing your wife apart. You're tearing your girlfriend or your fiance apart. You're tearing your boyfriend apart. Like, we're tearing each other apart. And we don't even know. And we think we're communicating well. We think we're actually getting the message across. We're not. And if you think that because, oh, well, they're not fighting the back as much, or they just say, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, it's not a win. It's not a win. There's a better way to communicate. Because if you continue to use you statements, again, you're going to destroy your relationship. I don't want you to destroy your relationship. I want you to have a healthy relationship. I want you to have a loving relationship. I don't want you to be criticizing your loved one. I don't want you to drive them away. I don't want you to switch the time. I don't want any of that, all right? I want you to be able to express what you're thinking and what you're feeling in a way where they can receive it. And there is a way to do that. There is a way to do that. Right. So if you stuck with me for this long and you heard all that, now this part, this is what you're going to need, right? So you're going to need to use I statements. Yes, I statements. I don't know if you ever heard what an I statement is, but it's simply that. I mean, really, it's kind of explanatory, right? Like a you statement is about you, the other person, right? An I statement is about I. It's about me, right? So if I'm talking about using an I statement, that means you are sharing only about yourself. Now, here's the thing. If you share only about yourself, there will be no criticism. There will be no accusations, which lowers the chance of there being any defensiveness. There's no contempt. There's no driving anybody away. There's no shifting the focus to the other person. All that stuff goes away. So I'm focused on me. My message is clear. You understand where I'm coming from. You understand my needs because I'm staying focused on me, my thoughts, my feelings, my situation, how I perceive things. And what happens again when you do that, all those other things go away. You lower the chance of defensiveness to happen. And I will say this, little asterisk there. There are some people that will still be defensive, but that's because there's things you got to learn on their side. And there might be some things from their childhood that they need to work through. But long story short, if you're using I statements, the chance of that of happening is very, very low. It dramatically drops, right? Because again, how can I get mad about an accusation that never happens or a criticism that never happens? So I'll give you an example, right? So I have a method, I call it the SIR, to explain, it's like an acronym to explain how to actually create and craft an I statement, right? So the first thing is the situation, right? So I'm going to take going out for a second. I'm going to use that as an example, right? So the situation you state must be objective. And by objective, I mean that anybody on the outside would look at that same situation and they would say, yep, that thing happened. So for instance, if everyone looking at this thing, this podcast, and see this shirt and see the Invincible shirt, that's an objective thing. Keith, when you were wearing that Invincible shirt, that objectively happened. It's not an accusation. It's not blame. It's just saying what happens in objective reality. This part's critical. So if you don't share it objectively, it's going to come off as criticism. Because what happens a lot of times, people say, yeah, I use I statements all the time. So when you messed up the other day, I was hurt. That's not an I statement. I'm sorry. That you just made it a you statement. You just lost them immediately. So what you would say is, when you came home late the other night, is that objective? Did that happen? Am I accusing him? Am I attacking his character or her character? No. Did they come home late the other night? If they come home at 7 and they came home at 8, and everybody looked at that, yeah, that's late. They usually come home at 7. Tonight came home at 8. That objectively happened. It's not an accusation. It's just saying what happened. It's critical for that first part for you to establish the objective situation, the scenario, the context. The next part is E, emotion, right? Share an emotion. I'm hurt. I was sad. I was lonely. I was disappointed. An emotion word, right? Not, I feel like you don't care. That's not an emotion word. You just use another you statement in there. No. I was hurt. I was sad. I was disappointed. I wanted us to spend time together. And when we didn't, I'm getting ahead of myself, but that made me sad, right? I made this dinner for us, and that made me sad when you didn't come home on time. You're using an emotion word. Very, very important. So we got the S, situation, stated objectively. E, emotion, use an objective word. I feel hurt. I feel angry. I feel frustrated. I feel happy. Whatever, right? Make sure you use an emotion word. Next thing. Then we move over to the reason. This explains why the emotion came up. So when you came home late that last night, I felt hurt because I was planning a special dinner for us, and now it's cold, and I know that's not how we have our special dinners. That's not how we have our dinners. So I'm sad, I'm disappointed, I'm hurt because we didn't have the dinner when we said we were going to have it. That's the reason. Again, no blame, no criticism. I'm just saying, hey, this is the reason why I was hurt. I thought we were going to have the dinner at this time when I didn't hear from you and was just sitting there and was waiting. Now it's cold. So now I'm disappointed and I'm sad because there was a special event for us. No accusation yet, no blame yet. Now we go, so that's the R, reason. And the last thing, request, right? The request. So the request is just what you want, right? And the request should be said in a way where both people win, right? So, hey, in the future, could you please just shoot me a text and let me know if something's happening or you're going to be running late so that, I can plan accordingly? So to make sure that, if we're doing something like a dinner like this again, I can just plan it accordingly, maybe make it a little bit later so to accommodate the time when you're coming home. No attack, no criticism, no contempt, clear message. You know what I'm feeling. You know why I'm feeling it. You know what situation generated all that. You know everything. I didn't attack you once. I didn't say you didn't care. I didn't say you don't love me. I didn't say none of that. I simply stated the situation. I stated what I felt. I stated why I felt that way. I stated what I would like for us to do in the future moving forward. If you start adopting this modality, if you start adopting this level of I statement, and you start using it consistently, you're going to see the defensiveness fall off the other person. You're going to see you guys are able to have conversations. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you master this technique, your conversations will not be hours long. You will not be sitting there for 30, 40 minutes. You're not going to sit there with having someone that's monologuing. You're not going to have that. It's going to be real quick. You can literally resolve these situations within minutes. You get really good probably within seconds. Because guess what? The response to that is, oh shoot, you know what? I hear what you're saying, So when I came home late last night, you were hurt and you were sad and disappointed because you had the dinner ready for us, but because you didn't know I was gonna be late, it ended up sitting there getting cold. And so in the future, you just want me to let you know, give you a heads up if I'm gonna be running late or anything like that. Is that right? Then boom. You know, she says, yeah, that's right. That's what I was feeling. And if there's something he was missing, you know, she would say, yeah, kinda. He would say, okay, well, which part did I miss? Then she would go and correct that part. He'd reframe that part, let it back to her, summarize it back to her, and then move on to the solution. All right, cool. I'll make sure I shoot you a text next time. My fault, my apologies. I didn't mean to hurt you, I didn't make you feel that way. Kiss, make up, move on. Life goes on. Right? This is the power of I statements. You must master this in a relationship. It's the only way you guys are going to be able to make it. If you don't know how to communicate, if you steady use you statements, then what's going to end up happening is you're going to drive that person far, far away. You're going to drive them into the arms of somebody else. I want you to think about that. Not because you're horrible people, not because there's no love, not because you don't have similar values and similar likes, not because of any of that. Simply because the way you're trying to convey yourself and communicate to the other person is wrong. Wrong delivery. I'm trying to let you know this little secret. If you're in any type of healthy relationship, right? Obviously, an unhealthy relationship where someone really doesn't care about you, this probably isn't going to apply. But if you're in a healthy relationship where you know the person loves you, like genuinely loves you, and there's evidence of that, they want to meet your needs. They want to meet your needs. They want to make sure you're happy. They want to make sure you feel loved. They want to make sure you feel understood. They want an emotionally safe space for you. I've yet to meet a couple that love each other that don't want that for each other. I just don't see it. But this thing right here, these stupid you statements, man, they mess us up every single time. So I just want to share with you guys, please stop using you statements. It's not healthy communication. It's not healthy at all. Switch to I statements. Again, use the SIR method. Situation, emotion, reason, request. Use that. It'll be clear and concise every single time. There's another thing as well. I'm going to add this on, a little bonus if you stuck with me this long. When it comes to the SIR method, right? Less is more. So when you share the situation, it's not, hey, when you came home last night and then you took your shirt off and then you did this and you went upstairs and you went downstairs and you went outside and you went here and you went and watched the TV. No, stop. Less is more. That's too much. That's too much. Oh, I felt hurt and it was just so bad and it was just so painful and it was just oh man and I was just this and I was just it. No, less is more. Well, see, the reason why is because back in my childhood and long time ago in the galaxy far, far away, less is more. See, what I really want is this long, elaborate plan. Let's plan it all together. No, less is more. I understand when we were in school, let's write a 5,000 word essay and let's write all this or write all that and make it nice and long and make it. I get that. There's a reason for that. Right? There's a reason that they had us bulk up on content in school. It's so you can understand the subject matter, so you can understand thoughts. But in the real world, you need it concise. Think about these business owners and CEOs and things like that. They need it concise. Hey, tell me what's going on. I need bullets. Matter of fact, don't even give me sentences. Give me bullets. Boom, 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 boom. That's what I need. Okay, let's go. Let's move. Less is more. Now, I'm not saying you guys can't have deep conversations. Obviously, yes, in a relationship you can have and should have deep conversations. But when it comes to disagreements, when it comes to when you guys kind of starting to bump heads, less is more. It's easier for the other person to process. You lessen the risk of using you statements unintentionally and criticizing unintentionally. It's easier for them to understand the message, easier for you to convey the message. And remember, you don't need all the extra fluff. When you came home late, I was hurt and disappointed because we had a meal planned and now the meal is cold and now it's not going to be as enjoyable. I would like in the future if you could just shoot me a text and let me know when you're going to be late so that I can just plan accordingly. That's it. That's it. Just, what, 10 seconds? When you start mastering this, that's how the communication is supposed to be when it comes to these things. And again, if you need a deeper conversation, then yeah, you guys can take that. Then maybe, yeah, I mean, once it's resolved, maybe then you go and then you have a conversation like, hey, well, what was it about, the dinner, right? And, because I was just figuring we could just warm it up in the microwave. I wouldn't think anything big, a big deal. Oh, and then we maybe she shares like, yeah, because sitting down and sharing, a meal together. That's so meaningful to me. And it's like with my parents, and, it's just something I really cherished. And now it's deeper. Now it's like a core belief type thing stuck within them. And so it's like, so it's even bigger than that. Because I was just thinking, just toss it in the microwave and we're good. Just reheat it and we're good. But this is deeper than that. It's about the connection. It's about the moment. So you can have those deeper conversations afterwards, but do this first part up front. This I statement, this formula I just said, situation, emotion, reason, request. Do it like that. Then once you get that resolved and once a person's understood, then we can move on to deeper conversations and really getting to know one another and understand. Right. So that's it, guys. That's all I got for you. No more you statements. Please remove you statements from your repertoire. Please. No more you statements at all. None. Don't use them. They're not helpful. They're not getting you anywhere. They're not getting you anywhere. Right. So thank you guys for showing up, sharing, being here. Listen, if you like this, share it, send it out to somebody who might need help, like about a little bit about you statements, things of that nature. But I think the most important, well, something else I wanted to let you guys know as well. I'm going to be coming back on a weekly basis where we're going to be sharing these, talking about more relationship things. I know the last video I left you guys with was about the relationship influencers and their grifters and things like that, but obviously, I got to make sure I get out here, give you some good stuff too, right? So it's not just about be aware of them, it's also about what can you do to actually improve your relationship, right? So you guys, y'all take care, have a great, awesome, and blessed day, and remember, you are not alone.